I had a guy who persevered at Georgia Tech, at the Citadel, by the name of Andrew Johnson. We had you heard of O.J. Simpson many years ago? We had our AJ at the Citadel. Andrew was a poor youngster. If you've ever been down Highway 17 going into Savannah, Georgia, Andrew lived in that development down below the bridge as you went in. Tough area. And when I first got to the Citadel, I didn't know anybody, and Andrew comes in. This is in 1973. He comes in and says, "Coach, I got to go home." He lived in Savannah. I said, "What's your problem?" He said, "My mother passed away, and there's nobody there. There's nobody there. I have 4 brothers and sisters. I got to get back there." So I said, "Okay, you go and give me a call. Let me know what I can do, if I can help in any way." So we get down there, and it's a week to 10, maybe a week, and I haven't heard from him. And so I called down there, and I said, "Andrew, what's up?" He said, "Coach, I don't have enough money to bury my mother." I said, "Where is your mother?" She's laid out in the apartment. No lie. Yeah. And I'm saying, "My God almighty." I said, "I'll be back in touch right away." I called the Citadel alumnus, and I said, "You got to get over and take care of that." And I said, "I'll be right down." Now, and he did. He went over. I broke a rule. I broke an NCAA rule. But there it was. And I didn't know what else to do. But Andrew persevered. He came back to school. It took him 5.5 years, but he was dedicated to getting, a degree in engineering. That's what he wanted. I used to tell him, I would joke around with him. I say, "Andrew, how you doing in those applied mathematics and differential equations?" "Oh, Coach, I'm doing okay in them." I said, "Well, you haven't seen anything yet." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Wait till you get to that long division. That's when it really gets tough." Because that's about what I knew, okay? But anyway, he got his degree. And, but he was a great player for us. He was selected Player of the Year in the state of South Carolina one particular year. And that's pretty good because you've got South Carolina and you've got Clemson in that same state. And he was Player of the Year. But he got hurt. We went up to play, it's ironic, we went up to play Colgate. They're coming down here this week to play Richmond. And they were a good ball club. And Andrew got hurt. He tore up his knee, ACL, so he's out for the year. So I'm taking him on trips because he's our captain, and I want to look out for him too because there's nobody else there. So I kind of keep him around. So we go up to play a particular team, and the night before we have a meeting, and you always, you turn on the television, see what's going on, that type of thing. There's this one player that's being interviewed for our game. He's not us. He's one of the opponents. And he's telling them that, this won't be too tough of a game, okay? But next week will be the really big one when we're going to be playing East Carolina for the conference title. So, boy, I got smoke coming out of my ears. I'm that way. Well, anyway, we go up there and we have the meeting. And I said, "How many of you guys saw television this tonight?" Everybody raised their hand. I turned to our coaches. I said, "I think we're going to be ready tomorrow." And we were. We played really well. But the big thing was Andrew was with us, and in those days, you put a plastic cast on a leg when you have something like that. So the next morning after the meeting, the next morning before the game, I would always get up and walk around the parking lot of the hotel just to kind of relax a little bit. And I'm walking around, and I'm looking down the far end of the hotel parking lot, and there's this guy going like that. So what in the world, who is that? I look closer. It's Andrew Johnson. I run down there. I said, "Andrew, what are you doing? Where's your cast? Where's your cast?" He said, "Coach, I got in the tub and I was able to melt it off." He said, "I think I can play today." I said, "Are you kidding me? Sit on that curbing." And he did. And I called our trainer. We took him to the hospital and put another cast on it. But he was that kind of guy. He persevered. He overcame so many different things in his life to have accomplished what he did with his life. Okay, and he didn't have we, it was him. And he was the me in that particular family. But that was the type, he persevered. He knew what it was like, and he stayed with it. He never backed off from it the whole time. Athletics teach us how to overcome failure. Boy, I once coached in a game, we lost 70-12. You talk about failure. I mean, that was failure. And but no team has not ever lost. Everybody's going to lose at one time or another. John Wooten, maybe the greatest coach of all time, once said this: "Don't permit fear of failure to prevent effort. We are all imperfect and will fail on occasion. But fear of failure is the greatest failure of all." Now, this guy lost a time or two. Listen to this. Lost his job in 1832, defeated for legislature, 1832, failed in business, 1833, elected to legislature in 1834, had his sweetheart die in 1835, had a nervous breakdown in 1836, defeated for the speaker in 1838, defeated for nomination for Congress in 1843, elected to Congress in 1846, lost renomination in 1848, rejected for a land officer in 1849, defeated for the Senate in 1854, defeated for nomination for vice president in 1856, and again defeated for the Senate in 1858. That guy lost a time or two, didn't he? Y'all know who he was. Certainly the greatest statesman perhaps in the history of our country, Abraham Lincoln. He lost a time or two, okay? But he overcame that, and that's what we have to do in everything. I think this athletics can serve as a rallying point for a school. We once beat the University of Miami when I was at Maryland, and we trailed 31-0 at half, and we came back and we won the game, 42-40. And when we came back to Maryland, I mean, the campus was wild. I mean, it brought that campus together. And the president of that school at that time, John Slaughter, called me in. He said, "Coach, how does winning look for the future?" I said, "Well, I hope it's going to be good," like that, joking and all. He said, "Well, we want to keep it up." He said, "Admissions is up, fundraising is up, all of those things. Crime rate is down on the campus," and it all was directly related to the athletic programs. We had pretty good basketball then, too, under Lefty Driesell, and a great, great man. Georgia Tech, Virginia, we had the same thing. Virginia was 1, and we were like 16th, and I think we came in and we were able and fortunate enough to win the game. When we came back, we got guys climbing our bus, people, everything like that. I'm getting off a bus, and there's this guy on top of the roof of the bus. I look up, it's my son, okay? He's down there cheering, and welcoming us back. You all remember the great hockey win of the 1982 Olympics. That rallied the whole country. That brought the whole country together. So it can happen. Athletics teach goal setting. Another player, Citadel, again. I had a running back named Stump Mitchell. He got the name Stump because he was built like a tree stump. I mean, this guy was about 5 foot 8 inches tall, and he weighed about 185 pounds, and he had a body fat content of about 1%. And when we recruited him, and I went to his house, there was no door. He lived in St. Mary's County, closest part to the state of Florida, down in Georgia. And there's a blanket hanging down for the door. That's what it was. So we knocked on the side of the house. He lived with his grandparents. I walk in, we talk to Stump, we convince him to come to the Citadel. He does. He's there as a freshman. He's telling me on practice all the time, "I'm your best running back." "Oh, cool it, Stump, you're a freshman." I'm giving him that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, I used to ask our players to fill out a goal sheet for me. And I always ask them to give me 4 goals. What do you want to accomplish academically? And do you know what you want to do with your life? That was 2 things. Then the third one was related to football individually. What do you want to accomplish as a player individually? And fourth, what do you want for our team? Those were the 4 goals that I asked for. Well, Stump is in going through the military routine late at night at the Citadel. They said it was no harassment, but it was. It was a lot of it, okay? And I'm reading through the goal sheet, and Stump has 2 goals. He says he wants to win the Heisman Trophy. Y'all know what that is? That's the top trophy in college football, number 1. And secondly, he wants to be a Dean's List student. Okay, so I'm like, oh my God, So I call him in. I send for him. I call him up to my office there, and I give him a 20-minute presentation on, you can watch how you set these goals. They got to be realistic and all that. And I said, all that kind of stuff. I said, Dean's List student, hey, right now, just make straight D's, okay? Stay eligible, and then we'll work on this Dean's List thing, okay, over a period of time. Well, anyway, I make my talk, and I'm finished, and he looks at me, and he says, you finished, Coach? And he's sitting opposite me on the table. I said, yeah, I'm finished. He stands up real quickly, points his finger at me just like that, and he says, the goals stay. Now, I had thrown my arms up in reflex because I thought he was going to hit me. I really did. And I said, okay, you can keep them that way. Well, he ends up being Player of the Year in the state of South Carolina 2 years. I had Andrew for 1 and Stump for 2. Player of the Year, state of South Carolina. He's selected to play in the Senior Bowl game in Mobile, Alabama for the upcoming pro draft. I'm now coaching at Kansas City, so I go to evaluate him as a running back. And I hadn't seen him in a year and a half. I said, Stump, after practice, he's practiced, I said, let's go out and have dinner together. He said, Coach, I'd love that. So we're sitting down and we're talking, and all of a sudden he gets this real big grin on his face like a Chessy cat. I said, what are you laughing at? He said, Coach, you remember those goals? I said, yeah, I got a little bit of a dig in it. I said, George Rogers won that trophy, Heisman trophy. He said, and he kind of bristled. He said, yeah, but I got 2 votes. And he did, But then he said one other thing. He said, I do want you to know this. I became a Dean's List student my senior year. I became a Dean's List student. And in any wonder that he's been successful, and he's a coach now in the National Football League. And if you see this African-American on the side, short, got a beard about as big as his face, that's Stump Mitchell. Okay, very special guy, very special guy. But these people were wonderful, wonderful people for us. I believe in hard work. Athletics teach you hard work. There's a little expression that goes like this: the good Lord gave us 2 ends with a common link. One is to sit on, and one is to think. Success depends upon what you choose. Heads you win, tails you lose. Don't get caught sitting down. Work hard. Don't let it short. Athletics teach the difference between a contribution and a commitment. Have you ever heard the chicken and the pig story? It goes like this. There's an old story that goes something like this. One day a chicken and a pig were traveling down a highway. They had been walking for several hours when they came upon a roadside diner. And a flashing sign in front of the diner read, "Breakfast served, bacon and eggs." And as they approached, the chicken became ecstatic upon seeing the sign. The pig inquired curiously, "What is so exciting about a little neon sign beyond the promise of food?" The chicken replied, "It thrills my heart. Every time I see that sign, millions of people will see a similar sign each day, and when they do, they will think of the 2 of us." The pig acknowledged that it was nice to be thought of, but then he observed, "It is more difficult for me to share your enthusiasm. You see, for you, the sign represents only a contribution, but for me, it represents a total commitment." And that's what you need in things that you do, a total commitment. I used to tell our players this, that when we take that field, I want you to play from the bottom of the heels to the top of your head. Meaning I wanted a commitment. I wanted you to give me everything that you possibly had. And if we do, you'll walk off feeling good about yourself, and I will feel good about it as well. And it won't matter whether we won or lost the game. You have learned a big lesson. Besides my parents, there are 3 people who influenced me greatly in my lifetime. And they are all buried in Stonewall Jackson Cemetery in Lexington, Virginia. When I lived in Lexington, I visited their burial sites numerous times. Clark King, a coach for me at VMI. Lewis Weenie Miller, a graduate of the University of Richmond who later coached at VMI. And of course, John McKenna, who was the head football coach at VMI during my period of time. All of these 3 men were my mentors, okay? And I wouldn't be standing here right now if it weren't for them. Finally, I would like to mention a young man who lost his life defending this country, Chase Presnicki. We recruited Chase to West Point Military Academy, and there was not a finer young man than Chase. He touched many lives in a very short period of time at West Point. He too was a very special and a wonderful example of an outstanding leader. He was killed by an IED bomb, and he was actually picked up by a helicopter, and he was telling everybody it was going to be all right. Everybody would be okay. He was standing up and saying these things, and by the time the helicopter landed, he had died. He had passed away and lost his life. His father right now is heading up the investment part of the foundation up at VMI, Mr. Presnicki right now. But athletics brought these people into my life, and I'm a better person for having had the opportunity to be around them. I'd like to read one final thing, and it's titled Attitude. And it's by a former Marine, and he says this. Well, I shouldn't say former, okay? My son reminds me of that all the time because he was a Marine. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failure, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude that we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string that we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% with what happens to me and 90% on how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitudes. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. I hope I did not take too long, but I appreciate you having me, and best wishes to all of you in your businesses and family life, etc., for a long time coming. Thank you very much.